To all the listeners out there, spend some time every day to self-reflect, spend some time every day to see the perspective of the world from other people around you.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good night, Kwan Fung. Previously, episode 134 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast recorded on the 25th of September 2016 at 8:30 p.m. Approximately 2 years, 8 months, 30 days, and 45 minutes ago.
For those of you guys that haven't found your passion, I think it's really important to follow your curiosity first. Through your curiosity, you develop an interest, and through your interest, you have to start being very consistent in what you do, and that's when you find out whether or not something becomes your passion.
Kwan, it's a great pleasure to connect with you. Please tell us, where are you in the world today?
So right now I am currently in Fort McMurray, Alberta, up in Canada. It's a small mining town, but people might have known it back in 2016. There was a great fire that happened up here, and around 80,000 of the town's residents had to evacuate due to that. But now the town's rebuilding. It's pretty strong right now, and there's a lot of workers coming back into that place, and I'm one of them.
Oh, that's intriguing. Now, what are you doing there? Are you helping rebuild it physically, or are you doing it virtually?
So actually, I'm there as a engineer in training. I just graduated from mining engineering at UBC.
Wow,
So
congratulations, Kwan.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'm here doing my, I guess my full-time job now at working at Suncor.
That's amazing. Wow. So this is the third transition since we've spoken. The first from the podcaster to then the video editor to now the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've always done engineering, but yeah, on the side, I always pursue like multiple different things. Back then, I had a podcast, did some video editing, but also recently done photography and as well done some sort of entrepreneurial competitions as well.
Well, tell me about the entrepreneurial competition. What's that about?
Yeah, so back in, I think, June of last year, as part of the mining industry, there was a challenge for people to submit an idea on changing the public's perception of mining. So the mining industry overall doesn't get a good reputation. And sometimes because of, environmental disasters or what have you, it's rightfully so. But there's also a lot of good things that the mining industry is doing, including providing the metals that we use for our daily life. There's a lot of safety and technology innovations going on. So they submitted a challenge for people to submit ideas on how to change that, to improve the public's perception of that. And I submitted an idea along with two other classmates. We plan to use short animated videos, graphic videos, which is it's going to be educational and it's also going to be engaging. And so we submitted that. We submitted a paper, a presentation, and then we got to the finalist round. So we got to present on stage in Denver, Colorado in the U.S.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we won $5,000 from that.
Wow, you
And
won as well. Wow.
yeah, it was a very exciting time. Yeah, and now
Wow.
we're gonna be working to execute on that idea.
That's amazing. Yeah. My one encounter with mining, not to like dampen your experience, but was in Montana, where there's a ton of things going on there with the mining, which is not all good, right? But to see the effects of the tongue that mining had in that when the industry closed up shop, basically the entire tongue was left abandoned, So that's my one experience with it. And to see that you're taking the course of reviving the mindset of individuals into understanding the value that can come from it, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what's the next step? What's new? Well, I mean, you're doing the engineering and it seems as though you're always doing something on the side. Now, the name of your podcast, All Passion, Your Profit podcast, did this like ignite the flames of who you are today?
I mean, it definitely served as a foundation because back then I was very curious about how people were making money from their passions. So I did the podcast for, I think I got to around, I can't remember exactly, maybe 30 episodes. definitely not as long as you, but yeah. So I got to around 30 episodes, and I decided to discontinue it because it was taking a lot of time. But also at the same time, I felt like I had a good understanding of what people were doing, that they could make money from their passion as well. So eventually, I actually did make some money from some of my passions, like video editing and from photography as well. So yeah, and then I decided to focus on my studies. Now I kind of have a new passion, which is sort of telling people what the mining industry is and how it contributes to their everyday life.
Now, you were an advocate for staying in shape as well. How's that been?
Staying in shape. Oh, I always exercise every week.
So you are still the strong guy, yeah? I remember the photo you had. I think you were standing on top of a mountain when we first spoke, right? Are you still climbing?
Oh no,
Hiking?
yeah, that was hiking. I don't hike as much in Fort McMurray. There's not a lot of mountains nearby. But one hobby that I'm looking to take back up is actually going back into flying. So I actually got my license 7 years ago in 2012, and I haven't flown much, but I am looking to get back into flying.
Kwan, are you doing something differently with the clock? Is it that you're like flying in between time zones? It feels as though you're maximizing on time in ways that feels as though it's not possible.
Well, you mean in terms of like all these activities that I'm doing? Or?
Exactly. Like, how is it even possible?
Well, one thing is Fort McMurray, it's a small town. I mean, there's not a lot of, I'll say, like distractions, so I have a lot of free time. But secondly, I guess I always have this burning desire to do something more to find out what I'm capable of. The term I believe psychologists use is self-actualization. I'm always trying to find out, what are my limits, pursuing my passions, finding out what I'm curious about, and then figuring out like basically what makes something work.
When you look back from now to then, all you've accomplished, do you have any regrets?
It's hard to say. I mean, I had like a pretty good journey even just the past 2 years, but I do wish I could give back more because I always thought that, sometimes I had this like self-doubt, that I wouldn't like get the grades I want, but I sort of underestimated myself. And if I look back, I could have maybe stressed less on studying and maybe give back more through volunteering.
When you say volunteering, you mean like helping other individuals around the same age group, or would you go for the individuals that were younger than you?
So back in university, I would have done some mentorship to other undergraduates, but I could have also, well, I guess now that I have more free time, I'm actually looking to going back into cadets, which was something that I did for 7 years when I was 12 to 19. I want to go back as an officer and then sort of teach and mentor these younger cadets.
That's amazing, my friend. I want to say to you, Kwan, thank you. Thank you for showing up way back almost 3 years ago and having a conversation with me. You are now the foundation of the 12-Minute Convos podcast, more so the you that shows up, that's fulfilling your passion, and to see that you continue to grow and continue to self-actualize is pretty fascinating to me. More so the truth in you that stands via these conversations. So I want to say thank you for coming out then, thank you for coming out now. In closing, Kwan, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that helped me got to where I am is a lot of self-reflection, and not only self-reflection, but also connecting with the people around you. And so I think I really like the podcast that you have. You're talking to a lot of great, inspiring individuals. So Angel, I just want to say thank you very much for having me on your show, and to keep what you're doing. And to all the listeners out there, spend some time every day to self-reflect, and spend some time every day to see the perspective of the world from other people around you.
Love it. So Kwan Fung, again, my friend, a pleasure, I treasure. Thank you for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.